Welcome to the Crypto Mobcast, hosted by me, a sexy hot female from the UK.
So Andy, how's your head?
It's not too bad actually, considering a drunk outfit and contents at fridge that we had in. But yeah, so quite surprised actually. I had a couple of drinks the day before, but my head was rough yesterday. But yeah, I feel good today. How are you doing? You alright?
Yeah, apart from the front-facing bedroom that I'm currently boxed in, that's freaking on fire. I think my plant's dying, which isn't good. I'm probably going to die as well. But other than that, not too shabby. But before we go on to the podcast, I want to say thank you to people. The comments that we're getting, awesome. People are liking it. It's a bit different, we know, talking about the weird things. I'm dreading the Would You Rather in a bit. We do have a competition for learning crypto going on. So if you want to win £1,000, yeah, I know, £1,000, and or 5 free premium memberships for a year, check out the Learning Crypto Facebook page. And yeah, we'll crack on now. So let's start.
Now, it's time for Would You Rather?
Right, so I did have quite a nasty one lined up, and I've toned it down a little bit on this one, so I don't want to hurt you too much. So would you rather have dick-sized nipples or a nipple-sized dick?
I'd rather have dick-sized nipples. The only reason why is because I can hide it. I could just get some, I don't know, I'll just get some cling film and just wrap them up and that'd be fine.
Look quite nasty, though. With a little bell hanging off each nipple.
It would be funny if you're going on a water slide because it just hit you in the face.
It'd be a good party trick, wouldn't it? So you're out with your friends and say, look at this trick, lads.
Look at the Hercules. Look at it go.
Would be 2 little dicks out.
What about you?
I think I'd have to go for the same, because you won't be able to do much with your nipple-sized dick, would you? You won't be able to get much satisfaction from that.
Yeah, but if you like to dress up as a woman, you've got it sorted.
Oh yeah, you are, but I don't fancy doing that.
No, nobody will have to be fair. It's too much hassle from what I can see. I saw a good Would You Rather the other week, actually, on one of the TV shows that I watched. It was something random. It was something to do with crying. Would you rather cry acid or would you rather lose your hands? I was like, what's worse?
There's a few Facebook groups that just solely there for Would You Rather, so I've joined a couple to get a bit of fresh content for you.
Bit of banter. Yeah. Anyways, what's next? Because we're winging this. This is a Halving special, right? We're just going to sack off the news. Halving is literally upon us. When you're probably watching this or listening to this or whatever, watch a podcast, guys. You'll probably know that Halving's probably either just about to take place or happened. So Andy's going to go over the basic terms, the school version of what halving is, so you don't get confused. This is not an operation where you lose half of your Bitcoin. Don't worry. It is if you're a miner, but yeah, most people aren't. So I'll hand you over. Andy's going to do a nice little simple school version for you.
Let's talk. Use hashtag Crypto Mobcast to join in.
Yeah, so at the current time of recording this, Bitcoin halving is in 2 days, 13 hours, and we have 387 blocks left. So that takes it around UK time. That's around Tuesday morning. I know you're going to be listening to this Sunday morning or potentially a little bit further down. So what is the Bitcoin halving? Halvening, as some people like to call it. I've always seen it as halving. So new Bitcoins issued by the Bitcoin network every 10 minutes. For the first 4 years of Bitcoin's existence, the amount of new Bitcoins issued every 10 minutes was 50. Every 4 years, this number is cut in half, hence halving. The day the amount halves is called halving or halvening. In 2012, the amount of new Bitcoins issued every 10 minutes dropped from 50 Bitcoins to 25. And then in 2016, it dropped from 25 to 12.5. And now in this forthcoming halving, happening on Tuesday morning, UK time, it's going to drop from 12.5 to 6.25. The significance of this, so the halving decreases the amount of new Bitcoin generated per block. This means the supply of new Bitcoins is lower. In normal markets, lower supply with steady demand usually leads to higher prices. And that has, once we start going through some of the previous halvings, we'll show you what has actually happened. Since the halving reduces the supply of new bitcoins and demand usually remains steady, the halving is usually preceded some of Bitcoin's largest runs. And from here, we can have a look at some of the previous halvings. So the first halving happened, let's just get the date up here. It happened on the 28th of November 2012. And if we look at the charts going back in time, on the day of that halving, not much really happened. I mean, on the daily candle, it's shown a 6% swing, but following that long term, it was extremely bullish. If you take the from the halving up to the highest point, it jumped up around 7,000% on that first halving. That's insane. So it went from around, what do we have, about $15 all the way up to $1,160. That's one hell of a rise.
That also leads to the Mt. Gox crash, doesn't it?
What date was that on? So the highest point then was 20th November 2013. It hit its all-time high after that halving.
Yeah, I think about 3 months later it was a Mt. Gox debacle, and then the nice little reset, wasn't it?
Yeah, if you go back on, I think the Bitstamp chart is the best to look at for previous halvings. So if you look around April 2013, it shot right up, and then it was one hell of a drop. It must have been about Mt. Gox time, and then obviously it took off again. So moving into the second halving, which happened on the 9th of July 2016, we actually had a bit of a price reaction on this one. So the day of the halving, the price dropped 30%. It then did a steady sideways action for probably about 6 or 7 months before it then started to move. Again, we hit some crazy all-time highs from that, and if we were going to look at the charts, it was again a massive percent rise. It went from, let's have a look at the price back then, around $680, and it flew all the way up to the highs that we saw at the end of 2017 of 20 grand. That move altogether was a 3,000% price raise, and that happened over a period of 530 days. So you're talking, what's that, 18 months to 2 years nearly. So it just shows that it does take a long period of time for things to actually get moving, but eventually it will happen, and that's what we could potentially see in the forthcoming halving we've got in the next few days.
I think the biggest drawdown what you can get from all this is the first halving had no real effect, because I don't think anyone knew what really would happen. No one really joined the dots of, wow, this is amazing. Like, no retail investors. Obviously the people who were in the space would know anyways, but when you look at the second halving, there's a big drop. Obviously, miners probably dropping it. You've got other people kind of buying the rumor, sell the news, trading off opportunity. I believe that's going to happen over this halving as well. I think it's going to be a big drop. When you look at the charts, we've already rallied up to it. It's going to drop, but the biggest draw that I can get is the delay. Obviously, the scarcity delay of it, the stock to flow ratio, as people call it. You've got to think, people who are new to the space are already believe in the hype that, oh, this is a bullish event. From now on, we're going to go to the moon. Well, those new investors are going to go for a bit of a shock period when we dump. And if we do dump, they will probably sell, and it'll probably create a bit of a chain reaction as well with everything. But I think, personally believing that this halving will have a bullish effect, obviously due to the absolute scarcity of the asset. But I think it'll be like, 2016, where we won't see the full fruits of it until a year later, realistically. I think 2021, we'll start to see the increase. I think, obviously, you've got pandemic going on. We've got new developments all the time in that and different markets and how people are investing. I think, personally, if you buy in Bitcoin at $9,600 for a punt to make money, I think you're doing it wrong. In my personal view, I don't think the risk reward is there. You should already be holding. Likewise, there's plenty of other opportunities in altcoins to make money and grow Bitcoin, etc. But For me, I think the narrative is sold wrong. I think there's a lot of misinformation around halving because of past performance, and we can't really. I don't know if you agree with the same. I don't think you can actually agree that what happens in the past will actually happen again. We don't know if it's going to moon. We don't know if it's going to dump. We don't know anything because of these new pandemic sort of restrictions that we've got in terms of like what people are doing in the news. It's an absolute nightmare in my view.
We need to remember also that this has only ever happened twice in history. It's still a new concept, isn't it? I mean, on one of them it's dropped. On the first halving, nothing happened. The second one, 30%. And this one, I mean, we do not know what's going to happen. It could fly. It could keep going up on this path that it's got. But, I mean, in real man's terms, you'd expect it to drop with everything that's going on. On the previous halvings, we've not had a pandemic. We've not had a recession, what we could be facing very shortly. It is a complete unknown, but there's been no relief on this current. How long have we been going on this rally now? Is it about
8 weeks?
12th of March, so it started moving from them lows, and it's not had any relief at all yet, and you would expect that to happen, and if it's going to happen hard, because FOMO's being all new people, and there's videos going out from finance companies telling you to buy Bitcoin and how to buy it on Coinbase. It's all a bit of a surreal experience at the minute, isn't it?
It reminds me of 2017 though, where everything was going parabolic. Like literally, you'd have people messaging you that you've never had message you before, and that's like weird. And as I said, like on one of my social media posts, like I'm bearish, and a lot of people are giving me stick at the minute because I put like a post out saying I'm bearish, and I still maintain that because we've not formed a higher high in the weekly. And until that happens, it invalidates, and then I'll be like, right, fair enough, we're starting to turn a little bit, but we've got to get out of that wood. And when you see a lot of these like influencers and traders, they can't see the wood for the trees because they're only looking at like the 1 hour time frame or the 4 hour. In reality, if you look at the weekly, we have not formed a higher high since, I think it was the 11th of August, 2019. So for us not to be holding over 10,500 is kind of a crime, really, to call it bullish. It's not bullish. It's not a bullish formation. We could get absolutely slammed very soon. And if you're a new investor, and I don't want to laugh at you, but if you're getting excited about the prospect of buying Bitcoin, you only should get excited about buying Bitcoin when it's cheap. I don't really buy into the narrative of buying it for the long term at high prices. It's got to be an undervalued asset. It's not undervalued in my view. I don't think Bitcoin is undervalued at a 180% pump. It's not. That goes against every rule of investing. If you've bought a stock or if you've bought into any sort of company and you had the opportunity to buy it 180% cheaper than what the current price is, you've made a mistake. You need to wait for it to go back down. And I know there's a lot of people that are bullish going, oh, it doesn't matter when you buy, just dollar cost average. But if you're a new investor and you've never invested before and you see your account looking like absolute shit, and it's like, I've just lost $3,000, what the fuck? I'm going to sell. It's a different emotion. And halving has given the narrative to a lot of influencers to tell you shit, basically, misinformation. And there's a lot of accounts, and if you follow me on Twitter, you'll probably see me giving shit back to people going, what you doing, mate? You're going to get people absolutely slaughtered. And they will be, in my view, in the next week, I believe, we're due a red day. We're due a double-digit red day, which is what I call them, where you've got 10% plus of a loss. We had a 50% loss, which we spoke about in the last podcast. That one hurt. That one hurt a lot of people. We've done that once. We could easily do that again in one day. And if it happens, my word, a lot of new people, a lot of influencers will get absolutely wrecked, and they'll lose a lot of reputations by FOMOing people into a position. And then that will lead, in my view, mistrust of Bitcoin again and Ethereum, whatever, where people are like, oh, this is amazing. What on earth? Like if you buy any asset and it drops 50% in one day, it's scary. And can you imagine being a new investor? Like anyone can answer this question. It's like, imagine being a new investor, excited about something, and then you lose 50% in like a week. You will feel betrayed, and you'll be like, I don't want to invest in that ever again. that's the problem with what a lot of influencers are doing. And yeah, I'm an influencer. I've got a YouTube channel, all that good stuff, but you've got to be realistic. And what Andrew was saying before was, with the whole element of, we don't know what's going to happen because of the pandemic. It sounds a real cop-out, but, if you're buying any Bitcoin overvalued and it goes the wrong way, well, you lose. If you wait and it goes up, doesn't matter. There's always opportunities to make money somewhere in the crypto space, but there's more than just Bitcoin. There's more than just Ethereum. There's all kinds of wise investments to grow equity. There's thousands of coins you can invest in, but overall, if Bitcoin is pumping, the chances are your altcoins will be bleeding anyways in BTC pairs. The chances are, though, if it maintains and it stabilizes, the altcoins will go up. There's plenty of places you can put your money. There's plenty of places that, you can do certain things. And I know Andrew will agree with me on this one. Absolutely millions of places you can put your money and move it around, not just what the Bitcoin halving narrative is all about.
One issue is, though, people, especially new investors, only hear about Bitcoin at the beginning. So obvious people coming in for the halving FOMO will only concentrate on Bitcoin. They don't know that there's 2,000 different coins out there. They don't know that there's thousands of exchanges where you can buy it from. They'll just see somebody pointing towards Coinbase, halving, buy. That's all they'll see, and they'll show back to the 2017 pump. They'll buy in, and then that'll be it. That could be the bloody cryptocurrency investing over with the day after, if you know what I mean. The day after the halving, we could see more than a 50% drop. We could see more than a 50% rise, but it's all gearing towards a drop, in my opinion.
It's speculation, but the problem is you have all these people that hear about Bitcoin after a price rise. And I've got comments that I want to fish out at some point on my YouTube channel when I did videos on altcoins when they were really low. I was talking about altcoins as a real good opportunity to buy here. And these are all-time level lows. And I had videos where I've done it where Bitcoin was 4,000, 5,000. And I was like, this is a great opportunity to buy Bitcoin. And people literally comment, why are you telling people to buy Bitcoin this low? And it baffles me that, in my eyes, an investor buys low and sells it high, not buy it high. Because a lot of people's mindset and emotion is, it's doing well, I need to buy it. Usually, if that's the case, it's overbought, it's overstretched, it's overvalued. And that's what the feeling I'm getting right now when you see the big channel networks going, and CNBC, for example, explaining how to buy Bitcoin, explaining that Bitcoin has done a signal that could spark the start of the run of the 2019 bull run, which is identical to what happened last year in terms of Bitcoin going from 3,000 to 13,000. The chances are, though, it's just media manipulation to get people to FOMO into coins, and influencers are the same. I always say it, influencers get the most views when they're bullish because it catches the new people, it gets people excited, they get people following. I don't have that much engagement on my Twitter, even though I've got 8,000 people on it. It's because I'm realistic. I don't want to, I'm literally bursting bubbles everywhere. I'm bursting people's balloons going, you want to get rich? Unlucky, mate, pop. It's like the Despicable Me scene where he pops the balloon and the kid starts crying. That's kind of what I feel like sometimes when I'm tweeting or when I'm doing videos. But I also get a lot of respect for just being honest and realistic that, boys and girls, man, if you're buying Bitcoin at this, why not just wait for it to come down? If you're buying at $6,000, you've got a much better chance of making money. If you buy at $5,000, you've got an even better chance, 4,000, even more so. But people don't want to wait, and they'll wait for the narrative to be over. They'll wait for it to all be said and done, and they'll buy tonight, they'll buy tomorrow, they'll buy on the day of halving. And they've been told, if you buy before halving, it's going to go up to 100%. And people are like, what? But the reality is 24, 48, 72 hours after that, it could drop 40%. And can you imagine the feeling of a brand new investor that's just excited about getting the passport out for the first time in 6 months to do a KYC? Oh, look at this. This is really awesome. Okay, I'll buy it. $100. And that's another thing I want to go on to, right? People buying Bitcoin with $100. What are you doing? Just if you're going to invest, right, you're not going to become a millionaire by investing. I know it's kind of nice that, oh, let's invest in Bitcoin. But if you're putting $100 in to Bitcoin at like $10,000 and you're seriously expected to become rich, you're in the wrong game. You are in the wrong game. You're too late.
You need to have a lot more capital if you're going to potentially make yourself a millionaire from Bitcoin. You need to be throwing a few thousand at least just to make a good amount back.
Oh yeah, I mean, we could easily do an episode about how to grow your portfolios and how to do all kinds of stuff, but you've got to start somewhere. But in my view, you've got to have profit to move. And the way I teach it is always use profits. Invest in the big coins, the big cap coins. So XRP as an example, if you're looking for a profit setter, what a profit setter is, you only put profits in that. So you'd probably invest in Bitcoin and Ethereum as the main two. If you've got $1,000 in Ethereum at $100 and it moons up to like say $400, you've got a decent amount of profit there. You put a part of that profit into something else and then you build. Now, I'll go into that in another more detail on another podcast at some point, but people like, they just put $100 in Bitcoin and then they're like, oh, I've got profit, cool. Like imagine if they have like if they make an extra £100 or $100, whatever, in Bitcoin from $100 investment. That's a lot of money, but can you imagine what it would look like if you actually put a decent amount of money in at a decent price? It's totally different. But yeah, I mean,
I think some people's issue is they don't understand what it is, so they don't want to risk that capital going in. I mean,
yeah,
straight away they want to eye it up first and see what it's like. But yeah, you need to have a good amount if you're going to make some good money from it. The only way you could make some money from putting that amount in is by going to the lower caps that are brand new and buying them near the beginning. But you're not going to make massive money from the top 10, top 20 coins if you're just putting $100 in. It's not going to happen.
No, it's all about risk. And the risk is, in my view, like if you put money in Bitcoin, you've made a couple hundred, put them in the micro caps, the lower cap coins, and like just buy the rumor, sell the news on developments and all kinds of random pumps. But ultimately, the narrative is wrong in terms of what people have been sold, and they've been sold the wrong way. And that's where halving is going to become a non-event in the future. And I was reading a Twitter feed this morning about this is probably the last time in a halving where the miners will become the big sellers because the reward is lower.
Yeah, I saw that. I was saying that exchange is going to be the big ones in the future from cashing them out to get the fees.
100%, because the exchanges are getting bigger, and obviously BitMEX is losing its market share. The likes of Bybit are doing incredibly well. The likes of like OKX are starting to offer new products. Obviously Binance as well. These are like the big players right now, and fundamentals are the lower the amount of Bitcoins are generated by the miners will indicate a potential price rise. But you've also got price rise with volume of new people. And in my view, I don't think there is any new real people in the industry. Like there's a few, but I just think a lot of people are returning because one, they're bored. Two, the price is going up. Three, the narrative of halving. People are interested in that and they're here to make money. And yeah, everyone's here to make money in the industry. They want it to do well. They want it to do all kinds of good stuff. But ultimately, you also get those bad apples where they're just here for the money. They don't care about it. They just buy Bitcoin, or they'll make like a scam out of it and they'll try and scam people. But, overall, I think some of the exchanges will make bank over the next 10 years massively. And I think that's one element that we need to be careful of, like how much control do these exchanges have? How much are they actually helping the industry? But obviously, there's one thing that we've not covered yet, and I want to mention it right now, is in the last two halvings, and this is often overlooked, we didn't have futures. And futures, if you're new to the industry, futures is a way of like buying with leverage and selling with leverage as a short, going against the market. The last two halvings, we never had that. The end of the bull run in 2017-18 was the start of futures, which when you go back to gold and you look at the history of gold, when gold was actually put on the futures market, it suppressed the price. Now, we could have a suppressed Bitcoin price forever, and all these massive, massive predictions of like what we've spoke about, like the stupid amount of money that you can, people are touting, may never happen because of the short sellers. people will make money as it goes down as well as it goes up. And that's the one thing as well that a lot of new people don't understand. They're told it's going to go to the moon, the stock flow ratio, all this stuff. It could be absolute bollocks because people will just press a short button. People know that I can play bear, and I do play bear, and I make most of my money playing bear in most circumstances because I understand what a trend is. Trend following tactics can be very, very profitable, which is how I've traded over time to keep me in the game. Like you can't just make money going long over the last most of 2018 and most of 2019 for the altcoins has been shocking. But with Bitcoin, there's only been one big relief, which was April last year, where we came back down. And if you look at the last 3 months of Bitcoin this year, we've been 10K, 3K, now we're back at 10K. What on earth? And it's a crazy asset. And that's only valid and possible because people can sell. They can dump. And if you're thinking that miners are going to be accepting the fact that people are going to, not so much people, but the operation is going to halve their income, you've got a real rude awakening when they do sell, and that'll create a chain reaction of shorters, and then that'll create another chain reaction of liquidations and stop losses hit. And when you add leverage to that 100x, 125x in some cases, 50x, whatever, it's a lot of money. And even last night, there was a massive liquidation call. Like, I can't remember how much it was. It was a stupid amount. It was like 10 plus million gone in one candle. What? So, welcome to the industry. It's mental.
I think from this as well, talking about futures, miners, they could be angry with this, couldn't they? I mean, they could just drop everything in a winner, and knowing that they have futures there, they could drop it to the bottom and then just long the hell out of it. They could send it either way, couldn't they?
I don't think they'll send it north because the thing with that is it ruins their difficulty adjustment if they send it north. They've got to think that every 2 weeks, the difficulty adjustment of the mining algorithm will make it more difficult. That follows price. When the price goes up, that goes up. And I think it's in 7 days' time, I think the next one will print. It's currently one level behind all-time high. So that means it's more costly for them. If they do like a huge market execution and drop the shit out of the price, that will then drop, which will mean it's less for them to mine in terms of cost and like difficulty for the algorithm to kind of do the old cryptography side of it, the verifying. But the fundamentals of that is kind of important in my eyes. And I think that's often overlooked by traders. And when you start considering the fact that miners are going to get hurt in two ways, they're going to get hurt because it's expensive to mine. And secondly, they're going to lose half their reward. The narrative is this is going to dump, but the narrative as well of that is kind of flawed as well because anything can happen due to the futures. People can just pump the living shit out of it for a bit. But you've also got the narrative of the stock market. What's happened? We've got mass unemployment. We've got companies going freaking broke. We've got all kinds of shit happening. But the stock market is still rallying because of the artificial prints. And Tether as well, you can print that money to create a pump.
I was just going to mention that about Tether. You don't know which way it's going to go nowadays because the amount of tent have been printed out and sent into exchanges, it could go either way, couldn't it? And that is what throws it into a little bit of an unknown. Are they going to long it? Are they going to short it? And if you watch the whale alerts recently, the amount of Tether printed is just, it's ridiculous. It must be going towards the billions now. It's like out of control.
Over the last 4 weeks, it's over $1 billion, I think. But ultimately, you look at their pinned tweet and it's like, guys, we've upped the threshold of this because of the amount of money movement.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
It's crazy when you think about how much money's moving, and we are playing a whales game. And a lot of people go, "Oh, you're supposed to be good at technical analysis." Well, as a trader of like the larger swings and positional holds, you've got to kind of have your faith in what's happening overall on the longer time frames. What is the direction? That's why I look at the weekly, the daily, and the 4 hour to do most of my moves. And that's why a lot of people get hurt in the lower time frames because they don't consider what the long-term effects are. And it's kind of really exciting to think, right, all these kind of stuff together. And I'm watching the charts right now and I'm seeing Bitcoin dropping quite a bit recently. And like, I've literally got the chart up right now. We've went and topped out 3 days ago. So
down about we know.
We're starting to drop, and we've dropped quite a lot. We've dropped about $500 already. and it's looking like a rollover right now in terms of the chart. It may pop up a little bit more, it may do a retest, but it's looking like a rollover. But this could be the start of the correction, and they have very bearish candles as well. But when you put into context like all the other factors that we've got in terms of everything, like miners, futures, you've got obviously, FOMO, new investors. The new investors are not good for the industry because they're only putting little orders in, and they'll get absolutely savaged by the big sellers. And the big sellers are exchanges and, most importantly, the miners. And when we start to realize that, and the futures element of that, it's going to get very, very interesting, very, very fast to see what happens in the future halvings, what happens with the volatility of Bitcoin and how it works. And you've got to think like the way the Forex market works as well, in terms of leverage, we may be going to that direction as well, where the more volatile we become, the less likely you'll become like Forex. But the opposite way is obviously the less volatile Bitcoin becomes due to the stock flow of like the price and what's happening in the futures. It could be quite stable, but I think we're absolutely years away from that. And I think that's where the biggest problem lies with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is people don't want to touch it because it moves too much, and it will confirm that if we have another double-digit day. And I think that is very, very likely when you consider the fact that we've moved 180% in a matter of 8 weeks with no real correction.
People are scared of the manipulation. That's the end of it. I mean, you don't want to jump in something where you see it swinging up and down $2,000 or $3,000 every now and then. You don't want to invest in something like that, do you?
Well, no, you don't. And this is where Forex gets like a bad rap as well, because people go, oh, it only moves like 1%. But when you look at Forex and how that kind of moves, it's on a much higher leverage base. It's a different sort of way of trading. But Bitcoin and obviously other cryptocurrencies could become like that in terms of like they'll have a better leverage model. They'll have a much better way of dealing with things. But right now it's still an unregulated market, and a lot of things can happen, and a lot of manipulation's there, and you can't really deny it. You can't really get away from it. And manipulation's good in one way, but it's also bad in another, where I personally think the stock market is the most like rigged thing in the world right now. It's absolutely crazy when you consider that. But when you look at the world of crypto, we have like the little death wicks that we call them, little stop hunts. And that is where the interesting issues are. But a lot of people blame manipulation for loss of trades, but you never get caught in a manipulation spike if you're looking at the higher time frames, because you've always got it covered. But if you're trading on the lower time frames based off X, Y, and Z, you probably will get hurt in these volatile times. And it's just all about risk reward. And that's where the overvalued price of Bitcoin comes in, where we're up high. We're up really, really high right now, but people will still buy it. And people will not care about it. And you always see the people like go, oh, I'm just going to buy it for 5 years and not touch it. Well, the chances are in 5 years when you're going to touch it, it might be on the floor, and you might have missed plenty of opportunities to take profits, to accumulate more, buy it, sell it, rebuy low. But people don't do that. They're just like, oh, I'm just happy for it to just sit and just do what it wants. But this is a highly volatile moving market. If someone said to you, right, buy Bitcoin at 10K, right, cool, happy days, it goes up to 50K, would you sell it? I would. Don't know about you.
I'd be selling straight away.
But people don't, and they'll be like, right, I'm just going to hold it and hold it, keep on holding it.
That comes in with experience as well, though. I mean,
oh yeah,
I've fallen for it before when I first got into crypto, and I've seen some of these coins like XRP, for example. I bought that cheap, and I watched that go up to $3, and I was selling it too. But you just think, God, if it's just going to keep going, and that's when you eventually end up getting wrecked and end up losing out on profits that you should have taken earlier.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the thing. Like, people could come to take profits and they've missed most of it, and it's like, well, why did you hold it forever? Well, I just thought it's going to go to the moon. I had it with a few coins, like a few altcoins. I like, there's times where I did it really well. I literally sold not so much near the top, but I sold huge profits. I was like, right, I'm more than happy with that. And then you got ones where I'm like, I should have sold that, but I just didn't. I just greed. And
it is greed, but yeah, the greed emotion is the worst one. It kills us all off, doesn't it? And you just want it. You just think, oh, just leave it an extra day, or leave it an extra couple of percent, and then you look at it the day after, and it's on its ass.
Yeah, and that's where I think influencers are at the fault of this, where they're like telling people that, oh, if you buy Bitcoin at these levels, it's gonna go up at least 300%. People have that in their mind imprinted that, right, I'm gonna buy Bitcoin, I'm gonna make 300,000% or whatever. You know, it's yes, it's like it's a stupid number, but people believe that. It's like, oh, it's going to go to the moon. We're going to go to $150,000 in the next 2 years. People believe that shit. And the problem is, as we've discussed, we've got futures, we've got all kinds of other like factors, but they will not sell profit until that price is realized. And that is the biggest problem. And that's where we get bag orders. And you don't know what's going to happen in the next 2 years. Bitcoin could go down to 2K. It could quite easily go down to 2K. If it does, it's going to upset so many people. People will not come back to Bitcoin. They will sell at a loss. They will label it a scam. They will think it's an absolute flawed property of investment, as people would like to call it. It's scary when you think of that, and we've all been there. We've all bought high, and it's died.
It won't be the first time that's happened either. It's happened hundreds of times since Bitcoin's been going. The amount of people that have bought it over years and then been wrecked and come out calling it a scam, it's unknown the amount of people that have done it.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a Facebook group with 3,800 people in there. You could probably argue about 3,000 of those people are completely wrecked from when the group was introduced in 2017. They bought it high, they jumped on the boat, and the boat fucked off without them. And then they tried to catch up with the boat, and then they got hit by it and squashed. It's one of those things. It's like you can't deny it, but the problem with halving is creating a false narrative that, yes, over time it's bullish. Yes, we can't deny that. But how many new investors understand that for it to be bullish, it has to drop, it has to correct, it has to move up and down a number of times. It has to correct so many different waves and waves within waves within waves to make a price structure. We could, if we do not form a higher high, i.e. over 10,500, that's a bit of technical jargon, we will drop, and we will drop down to the support levels again. And I think don't rule out a 6K Bitcoin in my eyes. If you're listening to this thinking, I want to buy this, put a cheeky little order in at 6,000. If you feel it's going to go lower, put another order in at 5,000, 4,000, 3,000. Psychological key levels of Bitcoin. Anything can happen in a recession. Anything could happen in a pandemic. Anything can happen with the narrative that manipulation could happen. People could, and this is one thing that I say, and I've talked to Lee about this on numerous occasions. Institutions want to buy and hold Bitcoin. They will not do it at 9,600. They could easily just press a short button, chuck a load of capital in, go with the miners, go with everyone else, and just go, right, let's just send this to the ground. And it would not shock me if that happened and they buy it up. We've already seen with Ethereum. Ethereum at $100 or $80, whatever. Grayscale have been buying that at 4 times the premium because they want it. There's a reason why they want it, but they only buy it low. They won't buy it when it's high. The hype will die off, it'll come down like anything. And I know you'll probably agree with that in terms of like institutional investing, and they're not going to buy it high because the risk reward's there. They've got a lot of money. They're going to play with a lot of money. They're going to be making money for others in hedge funds. They are not going to do it when it's at 10K. And right now I'm watching this price and it is dropping. We're down 2% today, but overall at the night, we're down, $450 right now? It's quite a big drop in comparison to where we've been the last few days, and it's getting lower, and we're now at a weekend. It's a bank holiday weekend over in the UK as well. In other countries, there are also holidays going on, like in China as well. So I think it's interesting times. I don't know what you think of that, but I think profit taking is probably high on people's to-do list right now.
Just on going back to institutional holders, I read a tweet yesterday that Bulgaria holds 313,000 Bitcoin.
So
imagine them selling that, or they must be holding it just for long term, but it's a fair old whack to hold that, isn't it?
It is, and there's a few countries that do hold it, and they state that they hold it. Obviously, South Korea as well. North Korea hold it. We know those. I think I can't remember what. There's another country as well in Asia that have openly came out, right. We hold Bitcoin, which is good. And I can imagine more countries would as well, and other big institutions. Like you're seeing hedge funds pop up all the time now, and like obviously Grayscale, you got BlackRock and stuff. But if they're believing in it, there's a reason why, but you've also got to think how many people have actually bought it. And I don't think all institutions have bought it yet. Yeah, you've got JP Morgan making their own stable coin. You've obviously got Facebook with Libra. It's governed to go one way, and I think cryptocurrency is here to stay. And I think you've got to get the right buy-in prices, and you've got to get the right amounts, and you've got to learn how to accumulate it and learn how to kind of keep it safe. And a lot of people don't do those steps, and they just go into Coinbase, just press the buy button. Right, halving's here, narrative is bullish, we're going to buy it $15 worth of Bitcoin because I can. But it's a pain because those people don't really get the industry. They don't understand it. They don't thrive off it. They don't believe it's here to stay. They're just here to make money. And yeah, I'm all for people making money, but
it's just a lack of research. Nobody knows what it is other than something that moves up and down in price. They don't know what it actually does. They don't know the potentials that it has in the future. They don't see it as another form of money. They just see it as something online. They don't understand the fundamentals of it. They don't know what it is basically, do they? They're throwing some money onto Coinbase, like you said, at 15, 20, 30 quid, whatever they can afford, and they're expecting that to take them to the moon. It's not going to happen, is it?
No, I agree. And I think to end this podcast, I think it's kind of right to kind of end it, that I do think a lot of people are misguided, and they just want the right answers, and the right answer is it going to go to the moon? And they'll just look at that data and they go, yeah, this could be the one halving where we don't go to the moon until next year. And that's very, very valid because of the pandemic and everything going on in the world. And you got to think, how many people will be buying Bitcoin? Well, we don't know. We don't know how many new people will. Obviously, we've got the free money going around, but for me, I'm bearish. I'm bearish in terms of the next 3 to 4 months. I think we are going to see a drop again. And then from there on, that might be the trigger to change the trend. And if we soak up a lot of new investors from that point of a low price because people understand a bit more about Bitcoin due to the halving hype, and obviously institutions and all kinds of other decent products that are now coming out, which is good to make it easier for people to buy into Bitcoin, I think then we'll probably start to see a more natural bullish run where it will be more sustained, it will happen, it will grow. And the one thing about this move that I will say just before we end this, it doesn't look sustainable because it hasn't corrected. Every single push, there has to be a correction. We've not had one for 8 weeks, and that's like a historic thing for Bitcoin. It's went 8 weeks without a correction. Doesn't sound very good in my eyes, and I think that is why I think we are going to come down at some point very, very soon, and it will be pretty aggressive. So yeah, any closing thoughts?
One thing for me, just be patient. No matter what price you buy it at, around the halving or post halving, just be patient, because the previous 2 halvings have taken a year, 2 years to eventually work out and find the highest price. So I give it you need to definitely wait until at least halving's finished before you're going to enter, and then just hold it for the long term, because eventually it will go up, but be prepared to wait a long time.
Thank you for tuning in. Join us here at the same time next Sunday.